Welcome to the Bella Vista Gardening Program. I'm Geri Hoerner, and with me today is Lou Jasper. She's a fellow Master Gardener from Benton County, and she's also a fellow member of the Bella Vista Garden Club. And today we're going to be talking about wildflowers and native plants in our area here, and we have some beautiful pictures to show you of that. We'll be talking about some of the things going on in the village this month, and also what you need to do in your garden for the month of October. So with me, like I said, is Lou Jasper, and we need to talk a little bit about some of the things going on. And basically the plant sale, if you're watching this program before October 8th, the Bella Vista Garden Club is having a plant sale at Wastewater, and Lou's been involved with that too. And it's in conjunction with the Ozark Hills Daylily Club and Wastewater's Nature's Calling. And it's from 8 to 1. And it's at the Village Wastewater Plant off Highway 71 and near the state line. And they'll have a big sign out there. So if you're watching before October 8th, you can still make it to the plant sale. But if it's after that you're watching this program, the plants will be at Wastewater, and they'll be available to purchase, and I think their hours are 9 to 3. You can go in to the Wastewater plant and buy the plants after the sale.
There's lots of good plants.
Lots of good plants. We just cleaned up that bed, and we pulled out trees and shrubs and
grasses,
perennials and a lot of beautiful grasses, and
some herbs.
Herbs, yes. And what else did we have?
That's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good variety.
And then we have a lot of iris. We pulled some iris. We have large pink iris and white, and we're pulling iris. Not too many bulbs. We have some bulbs, but not very many bulbs this year. But we do have a lot of plants to choose from, and a lot of beautiful iris. So there's not too much else going on. I don't think the farmers market is winding down in Bentonville. I don't know.
At the end of October.
The end of October, so they still have the farmers market on Saturdays in Bentonville, Saturday mornings. And there's really not much going on in October. Just still have to water a little bit.
The cemetery,
and the cemetery
Memorial
is having
Work Day
right.
will be
October,
Saturday too.
October 8th,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
And they're doing a lot of renovation at the cemetery. The garden club's a little involved in that because we do the plantings around the gazebo. Or not, it's not a gazebo anymore, it's a little building, information building. And we do some of the front entrance. So, but they're doing a massive planting.
And we're going to help with the butterfly garden.
A butterfly garden. So they're working on that. And I think they're going to have like a grand opening or a celebration later in the month.
I don't know about that. I just know the work day is
the work day.
So
there'll probably be something in the Vista, announcing when they're going to have people come and see what we've done and see what's been done. So they're making some changes in the beautiful cemetery there.
They are.
So anyway, we do have quite a few pictures for you of native wildflowers, and Lou's going to talk about some of their habits and how they grow. So let's look at some of these beautiful pictures we have. Okay, the first one is the wild
geranium, and it is a blue mistflower, is its common name. It blooms late summer, but one of the things about it is the beautiful blue color. Butterflies like it. It's a landing field for the butterflies. Spreads by root and some seed.
Okay.
New England Aster blooms late August, early September, and continues on into October. And we have a lot of the asters right now blooming in the village, throughout the village, along the roadways and things. And butterflies love them.
Right.
Bee-balm blooms earlier in the summer. Get bees, butterflies, nice smell, herb. It's in the mint family. Spreads, but not, you can keep it. You just dig up the ones you don't want and share with your neighbors.
Right, that's a good sharing plant, and it does come in different varieties. One of our members has a double red, and this looks like a double pink. It's kind of a rosy color, so there's a little different
There's
varieties.
a little, yeah, and some
But
purple.
basically about the same.
Black-eyed Susan, a great native plant that is just in our ditches and in our gardens for the butterflies. There again, the butterflies, it's a landing field for the butterflies to land on, or a landing pad.
You see it everywhere.
You see it everywhere.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Blooms a long time. It has a long bloom on it.
Yes, it does, and then it goes kind of ugly, and you just cut it off when it dies down. Butterfly milkweed, that's the orange one. That is in the ditches also. Butterflies like it. There you can see a butterfly on it. No, I think the butterfly there is on a butterfly bush.
Yeah, that's a butterfly bush.
Yeah, and
but that does come also in yellow, and then there's a
right.
perennial and
The
annual.
yellow is not the native. The yellow's not native. The other colors are not native. The orange is the native one, and they have taken cultivars off of the native to get the other colors. This is a Corydalis, and it is a spring bloomer, early spring bloomer. Doesn't get over about 6 inches tall. Has a very fern-like leaf on it, and when it gets starting to get hot, it's gone, and it doesn't.
Right?
It disappears, as a lot of our natives do. But it just disappears because it's an early spring bloomer.
It's got such a lacy leaf. It's
It
really
does.
pretty.
It's very pretty. And then the purple coneflower. They've taken so many cultivars off of the purple coneflower now that we have double wind. You have
all different colors,
white, pink, yellow, and whatever. But if you want a true bed of coneflower, stick with the purple. And again, a butterfly attraction, a bird attraction, because the finches come in and eat the seeds. And the bees love it, the bumblebees love it. It's just a good all-around flower.
Right, but it's not a long-lived flower. Does it reseed?
It reseeds.
It
reseeds if the finches don't eat all the seeds. Yeah,
But
and it'll come back from the same plant. You know, it sends up new.
The goldenrod.
Goldenrod is very pretty. Does spread. It's pretty in the back. We have all kinds of goldenrod because there again, the cultivars off of the wild. We have some that doesn't get so tall now that you can purchase. But again, a good butterfly, a good bee, a good bumblebee, you know, all that's important for our wildlife out there.
But the goldenrod gets a bad rap, thinking this is what causes all the fall allergies, and it's not the goldenrod, really. It's
Well, it's not the ragweed, but it's the golden. Some people have a hard time with goldenrod, but
it's usually the ragweed that causes most of the allergies in the fall, not the goldenrod.
They argue on.
There's an argument.
Everybody argues on what causes them. The Joe-Pye weed, a wonderful flower, native flower, butterfly heaven. The Joe-Pye weed that isn't a cultivar of the Joe-Pye weed grows very, very tall, about 5 foot tall. And so you want to have it in the center of your butterfly garden or at the back or something. And now we do have a cultivar that grows just about 2 feet to 3 feet.
Right. I think the botanical garden down in Fayetteville has that smaller version.
I think they do.
I think they have it in their plant sale in the spring. So there are smaller, shorter versions.
And people like them a little better than
They're a little easier to control and to work with in your garden.
Beady plant, that is truly a native, and they have making cultivars from that, the different colors. Ours is pink. It goes to a darker lavender. A pretty summer flower. It does. It says obedient plant. It's not really too obedient.
They should have called it non-obedient
Yeah,
plant.
they should have called it non-obedient because
It does
it
spread.
does spread.
It does spread, but I have the white obedient, and it's called Miss Manners, and it just spreads in a clump. It doesn't
Yeah.
take over your garden as much. So but
No,
this
the
will
purple
spread.
does. This
It will
this can
spread. But
be
you can still
non-obedient.
control it. Yeah, non-obedient.
Non-obedient. The passion flower, it's there again. That's native. It's a beautiful vine and has those beautiful flowers on it. But again, not too obedient. It sends up many, many shoots and becomes kind of a nuisance in your garden.
But it grows in the shade, right?
No, it likes sun.
Oh, it likes sun?
It
I've
grows
seen
along.
it growing in the woods in the shady areas.
Yeah,
maybe
it
on the
does,
edge.
but at the edge.
Yeah.
But the flower is beautiful, has a religious significance to it. A lot of people will tell you about its story.
It says an
I
unusual
keep
bloom.
it on, yes, and it's very beautiful. There are all kinds of passion flowers. This is truly the native Arkansas passion flower, the purple. Prairie Phlox. It is the tall one that you see in the garden. It's pink, and it's pink. I mean, other people, those are cultivars again from it. The Prairie Phlox, the butterflies absolutely love it. Our swallowtail. It's just a neat plant. Goes by seed. You'll have a lot of it.
Quite a while, doesn't
Blooms a long time. It's still blooming.
It's still blooming now,
It's
right?
still blooming now. If you cut it back, it will rebloom.
It'll rebloom again.
The Prairie Rose, very pretty. That's our one of our native roses. It kind of sprawls out with it's not the prettiest plant, but beautiful little bloom, blooms in the spring.
You see it kind of on around fences out in on the fields. And,
Yeah,
you know,
it
it's
doesn't,
kinda-
it won't, it's not really a climber though.
No, but you see it around the
Yeah, you
fences.
see it, and it spreads out, kind of gets kind of leggy, but you can cut it back. And it just has a very, very simple little pretty
Now,
bloom.
does it have a scent?
Yeah, very,
very slight scent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pokeweed, native plant. Probably I would cut mine out of the garden.
It's not really a garden. It might be good behind your garden in the
Yeah,
woods.
it does
That's
grow.
where mine grows.
Yeah, and people use it when it first comes up. They use it as greens, but you have to use it when it's very small. Some people like it just because it fills in, you know. So we go ahead and call it a wildflower and or wild plant, and it grows so big,
It
so
does.
so big
And fast.
and fast.
Now
yes.
the seeds.
That little berries that you see there is going to be eaten by some birds, and then they deposit those seeds all around, and so that's why you have more.
That's why it spreads.
That's why it spreads.
Our little seed spreaders.
The helmet skullcap is blooming right now. It's a very pretty little blue plant. It grows a couple of feet tall, up and down its stem. It's just
Looks like a
just
little
a
orchid,
native.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like a skull cap if you see it. It's pretty neat.
That's really a pretty one.
St. John's wort. This is a shrub. It actually is a shrub. It grows in shade and sun. Has those very, very pretty blooms on it in about June, sometimes into July. Depends on where it is. You know, when we say that they bloom in June, they don't always bloom in June, or they're continuing to bloom in July. Depends on our weather.
Right.
Depends on a lot of things. It's
A lot
a
of times it
very
depends on
beautiful.
how much moisture we have and what the
Right.
temperature
And that's
is.
native. All these are native, and so they go dormant. A lot of them go dormant when it gets too dry.
Right.
They lose their leaves, and they'll just come out for you next year.
Well, you think they disappear and then they come back next
They
year.
come back next year. That's the Starry Rosinweed. It looks like a sunflower. It doesn't grow too tall, doesn't grow too neat. It just kind of sprawls out in your garden, but a very pretty yellow, bright yellow bloom. I deadheaded mine, still blooming.
Still
It
blooming in October.
reblooms, yes.
In October.
But it is a summer bloomer.
Okay.
Turk's cap. Turk's cap is just what it says. Turk's cap looks just like a Turk's cap. It's a big plant. As it gets older, it will spread out to a couple of feet. Have all these little red blooms on it with this little thing sticking on top of it. The bloom is not very large, but as it gets older, it's showy, and people say, "What's that?"
Yeah,
you know.
It'll catch your eye in your garden.
It does.
It's
Shade, it likes shade.
like shade.
Celadine Poppy, one of my favorite. It comes out one of the first flowers to bloom in the spring. It is bright yellow. If you have some phlox of the early spring blooming Sweet William or phlox, it looks wonderful with it. Beautiful seed pod on it, pretty leaves. It will bloom throughout the summer. However, it didn't this summer, too hot, too dry.
And it disappears.
And it disappears. Comes back in February, sends up those little leaves in February, and starts its flowering in probably April, the end of April. And I've had it bloom early April, but generally end of April into May. Blooms all of May.
Well, when you think of poppies, you think sun, but this is a shade
This
plant.
is definitely a
This is
shade plant.
poppy.
Has to grow in the shade. The sun burns it.
Right. So
It is throughout our forest in Arkansas.
this would be great mixed with your hostas.
It is.
And because your
Mixed.
hostas don't bloom till later in the year, and then you've got this blooming in the spring.
And it hangs its little seed pods down. It droops them down, and then it explodes and sends up a
Sends all the
nice
seed.
little, and all the seeds go out. Common blue violet, very pretty, and we have some caterpillar or some butterflies that lay their eggs on the blue violet. A lot of us calls it a nuisance if they get into our flower beds.
Well, if it gets in your grass, you have a problem. You have to get that little base of the plant out. It's like a little bulb at the base of your plant. So if it gets in your grass, you have to get that bulb out.
And they have lots of seeds on
And they
them.
have lots of, and those
Lots
seeds
and
just
lots of seeds
explode.
and they go all
They
over.
go all over.
But very pretty in the spring. And then try to keep them I've tried to keep them at the edge of the woods or
Right.
at the edge of where you
And if you
don't
try to
want them. And they'll come
control
over
them,
and visit you anyway.
Control them when they're real small, and then you won't have a problem.
They're very hard.
Before
to-
they bloom, so they don't explode the seed everywhere.
The Corydalis, I mean, it is the leaf that you're going for there. It is not its bloom. It's a little green bloom that it sends up like a little bell, like our coral bells that have been cultivated from it. It's just the leaf, and it's a very beautiful leaf. Needs to be in the shade or it will burn.
Yeah.
And it eventually gets smaller and smaller during the summer because it doesn't like all
But
the
the texture
heat.
of the color
texture and
is
the color
really,
is very pretty.
It really does accent, again, your hostas.
It does.
And your other shade plants. It's a pretty little plant.
And it makes a nice clump. Maidenhair Fern, one of the pretty ferns, has a little round circle and sends its fawns out on that, and its leaves out kind of in a circle. Doesn't show it too well there with a circle, but a pretty little fern.
There's quite
It's
a few
about a foot
ferns
tall.
that are
Christmas fern is what we
native.
see in all of our, what we see now in all of our timbers. Bella Vista is just full of Christmas ferns, and in the Christmas ferns, green all winter. And when you have it in your yard or in your shade garden, you can just cut back the old dead ones in the spring and just see the fiddleheads coming up.
There's wood fern and lady fern too.
Yeah, the wood fern and the lady fern is a smaller little fern, and then through the summer it will disappear if it gets too hot like it did. The peacock fern, I don't know a lot about that.
This was from Diane Cox's,
Diane Cobb's
garden. So she has
and
this one.
I don't think that's really a fern, but it looks like a fern.
It does. It's pretty
yeah.
lacy.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty. I didn't look up. Jacob's Ladder, one of my favorite early spring bloomers. They've taken cultivars of that. They have many leaf colors now that's two-toned and blue flowers and pink flowers and white flowers and all kinds. But that's the true native and wonderful. Wild geranium, neat plant, shade, blooms early spring, continues into May. And then maybe we'll rebloom for you.
If you did,
not
have
always.
sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, not always. The green trillion, it's native here. This is our tall one. It'll get a little bit more, you see a little bit of purple in that. That is because it's older, the bloom is older, but it is truly green. That is one of our biggest trillions.
They're harder to find too.
Yeah, a little harder to probably. Wild ginger, wonderful ground cover. Hides its little flower. It's a little brown flower that blooms under the leaf.
Now you'd have to look for the flower.
You have to look for it. It's not the prettiest little cup. I like it, but the flower itself is not too, won't show it off too much.
It's a little shiny texture.
And it does smell like ginger. The roots smell like ginger. This is the Beautyberry Bush that is blooming right now, and they will have that at the plant sale.
Yes, we do have
the wastewater has it.
It's a beautiful
It is
plant.
a beautiful berries on it. The robins love the berries. Come in and have stripped mine already. I looked out there the other day, and there must have been 15, 20 robins out there just having a heyday. The Coralberry Bush, that's the one that you see at the edge of the woods now, and not quite so showy. A little purple berry on it, all over our woodlands here, and very pretty. The Buckeye is a tree, or a bush. It's a understory tree. You have two. You have the bottle bush, and it has a white bloom that blooms early summer. The red Buckeye, one of my very favorite, has a tall red bloom on it that looks just like that the bottle bush there, but it's red. Very showy in the spring. The wild hydrangea, all over the village, a beautiful wild native hydrangea. It's a lace leaf. Those little white flowers will go just around the edge.
Make a circle around it.
Make a circle around it. Of course, the dogwood tree.
Love the dogwood.
And now I see it's starting to turn red.
They are.
It's getting ready for fall. Redbud tree, early spring bloomer, beautiful.
Right.
And all of these should be purchased as plants or as, I would say, shrubs or trees.
The main thing is with wildflowers is be sure you know who you're purchasing from, and they shouldn't be picked out of the wild. It's illegal to pick wildflowers out of the wild unless it's your property or you have permission from the owner's property to take the wildflowers. So be sure you know
Well,
know
we
who you're
don't
buying
want
from.
people to dig them out of
No,
the
we
wild. We want them to purchase it from a native plant.
But those are the things you can add to your garden that are native and they're easy to maintain and they're used to this
And we have a
climate.
lot of them in the plant sale in the
Right.
spring.
And the other things we need to do in our garden for October, the bulbs, we'll be doing a program next month on bulbs, but you can plant your bulbs in October, November, even up to December. There's a good variety of bulbs available now, so if you buy your bulbs now and then start planting October, November, and you can also divide some of your perennials. They've gone through a terrible summer.
Terrible
So I think I'm waiting till spring to divide
So
my
I can see
perennials.
them.
Just let 'em-
Mine's disappeared, even a lot of the
but,
perennials.
they're so stressed with this bad weather. I think I'm going to leave them go for a while. And as far as roses, you have a few roses. But not a few.
Yeah, you stop dead hitting right now at this time, and then if they are too straggly or look too bad,
Trim 'em a
Trim
little.
them a little,
Yeah,
and
so they
then
don't rock in
finish
the
trimming
wind.
in February.
And your lawns, it's a good time to reseed. If you haven't reseed your fescue lawns, it's a good time to reseed and get that seed down before the the
And
snow
hope we
hits
get
and
some
hope
rain.
hope we get some rain. We're supposed to get some rain in October. We haven't had rain all summer, so I don't know. Trees and shrubs, we're planting some now.
Trees and shrubs is good time to plant in October, 1st of November, because they're going dormant, and now's a good time to. But be sure that you water.
Yeah, you have to monitor
They
that
have
water.
to. You have to watch your. Don't let them get too dry. Those
If you
those
give it
roots
just
need them.
Once every 7 to 10 days, just give it a couple gallons of water and let it soak in. And the vegetables, I haven't gotten too many vegetables. Nobody's gotten very many vegetables this year because of the terrible, weather we've had. But you harvest what you have, and maybe take your basil's going to be gone because
between
of the cold nights.
The groundhog and the deer and the bad weather didn't harvest many.
No, the deer have harvested more than anything.
They really
So
have.
They've harvested my tomatoes. They've harvested my roses. They've harvested my hydrangeas. They've eaten everything. They're very hungry.
They're very
'cause there's
hungry.
not much for them to eat out in the woods. So, but anyway, that's it's not been a good year for vegetables, and I don't know what they've had at the farmers market even this summer. But
they're having some nice squash and right now, and some people are bringing in some apples.
Good apples. Yeah, it was a good year for apples, I think.
And some root crops. There's some carrots coming in and some things.
But if you have any other questions about gardening, remember the Master Gardener hotline is still running through October, and their hotline is on Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 12 and from 1 to 4. And if you have any questions that, or any problems that you think they can help you with, you can call and you'll be talking to a Master Gardener. If they can't answer your question right off the top of their head, they can research and get back with you with your answer. And the Bella Vista Garden Club is starting its meetings now. We had our first meeting in September. Our second meeting will be in October, and that will be the 4th Wednesday of October. And that's at the Lutheran Church. We meet at 11 o'clock now this year. We're meeting a little earlier this year.
Because we like our social time.
Right, we have a little social time
share.
before lunch. And it's at the Lutheran Church at 279 in Cooper Road. And we welcome anyone to come. We have couples that have joined. We have male members now, and anyone in the village is certain, anyone in the area is welcome to join. And we also have a wonderful website with a lot of information on it. It's bellavistagardenclub.com. It's very easy. It's easy to maneuver, and you'll just find a lot of information there. And we're always willing to share. And then the gardening website for the Bentonville Master Gardeners is, I think they've shown that on the screen. There's also information on that website too. So we're just so happy you joined us today and share all your knowledge about wildflowers. You're my go-to person for wildflowers and native plants.
Well, because they're fun to grow, and they're a good plant to grow, because we've put too much we've destroyed the habitat for our butterflies and our insects by a lot of cement planted around and a lot of new homes.
And we have to help the butterflies
we do.
and bees.
We do. And thank goodness we're having more and more butterfly gardens established.
And I think more people are becoming aware of how
it.
important they are to our system. So they're very important to us. So I hope you've enjoyed the show, and I hope you will tune in next month. I think we'll be talking about bulbs next month and planting your bulbs. So hope you'll join us. And until then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.
Thank you, Geri, for having me.